Test, 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 test. Hello there, YouTubers, and my most beloved subscribers, viewers, as well as patrons. It's the 30th of May, year 2025. The second last day of May this year, both at Australian Eastern Standard Time / Sydney time and local Beijing. So I suppose I have some more. I need to get some more messages across, lest I run out of time. To make videos pertaining to self-reflections and knowledge and wisdom, quote unquote, wisdom I manage to have gathered along the way of life, and blah blah blah. So let's get started with something new. I suppose, yeah. At this point, as MGTOWs and lonely men, some of you guys out there may identify as incels / involuntary celibate and whatnot. Yes. So for dudes, for men like us, I suppose at this point, we should pretty much all stop trying to chase the so-called happiness and the success, or the illusions of success and happiness defined and imposed by the system, by the matrix, or by the societal programming and conventional standards, so on and so forth. Since life itself is already exhausting enough already, and the matrix amplifies and adds more afflictions, more pain by 10, if not tens of thousands fold to our existing struggles and agonies and excruciating pain, burdens and liabilities. Though that does not necessarily suggest that I instruct you guys to forfeit or kill all your ambitions. Well, no, not at all. But on the you still, I believe that as men we should still have a bit of ambitions, as well as passions to to look forward to kind of chase, so long as you perceive that they are within your reach. And after even and once after so much struggles, um so much time you took to to strive to actualize those ambitions, you still you still don't get um paid off, probably, or perhaps that signals um the time, the exact time, time, or sends you the exact message that possibly you know um cease to do cease to give inputs of hard work, but instead learn to embrace Zen, learn to implement practices of minimalism, that says you should perhaps you should learn to um, get rid of those people and things and items that give you unnecessary troubles and pain. Those um, you know entities and people, most typically speaking, those NPCs, those that don't add benefits or pleasure or enjoyment to your life, to your human. I beg your pardon. Um, so yeah, like I mentioned previously in my earlier videos, um, every now and then we just need to learn when to quit, when to just do nothing, but um, observe and reflect and mm, consider what has happened, um, though not necessarily what's about happen or what might happen, or just learn to embrace a mental state of like I said, Zen. Just do nothing and think about nothing, but instead just kind of behave like water, behave like H2O, um, and let it flow, and lie flat, lie down, lie in bed, or just let it rot, let it all come to a total annihilation, or collapse as watch the whole process and just do nothing and see how that um, might change your life in either direction, either for the better or for worse, or or just still remains stagnant. And in case your life keeps remaining some stagnant, and you just get grow increasingly um exhausted, or simply tired of your environment, of the place, or the the circumstance you got yourself stranded in. Um, yeah, I beg your pardon, but yeah, I kind of, long story short, I kind of been planning to make this video, though I suppose I didn't really take an adequate amount of time, nor the amount of due diligence I should have done before before I initiated this filming or streaming session. Um, so and on the other hand, I don't suppose my channel has recently earned any favors from YouTube, from the so-called lady or harlot algorithm implemented by YouTube. And my I don't see much growth in terms of views, in terms of subscribers to my channel most recently. Um, so yeah. So at this point, I just have begun to treat my remaining my remaining duration or amount of life as a prison sentence spent at a hospice, um, trying to still, though I'm still kind of more or less trying to pull myself out of this pile of mess and shite storm, or shit storms, or shite storms, whichever you prefer to call it, depending on your preferred accents or place origin. Um, on the other hand, I just pre- pretty much been lying flat, doing nothing much, um, productive or progressive. But instead, I just take time to reflect upon my actions and um, behavioral patterns, behavioral patterns and routines of life, and the past failures, mistakes, and sort of my unique ways to handle, to tackle problems that that come to my way, and so on, so forth, blah blah blah. um well, I beg your pardon for the ambient noises, since apparently, my one of my neighbors, dwelling upstairs, has been, intermittently doing some sort of renovations, you know um ever since, my grandma was still alive and with me, approximately, since year 2020. Yes, 20 early year 2022. And I suspect he or she or they might have installed some kind of, generators, either you know uh, petroleum kind of generators, or whatnot, to maybe to in order to, to cut some corners on the electricity bills or whatnot. And quite annoyingly, more often than not, they tend to leave it switched on at night, sometimes even until quite late at night, say around maybe 12 a.m. or even 1 a.m., 2 a.m. at local time. And yeah, so it can get quite annoying, though not um, so annoying to the point that it affects my sleep. No, but more or less, I suppose, my it can cause, a bit of mental, beg your pardon, mental turmoil, more or less, here and there. Yeah, but I suppose, there aren't much I can do to to get rid of that sort of rogue element, since I would rather avoid direct direct confrontations. And I or um based on my own, you know philosophy or policy of life, I'd rather, you know live off the radar, or fly below, or fly off the radar, by seeing as few people as I can face to, at least at my current location, since many of them, can stab you in the back, and even stalk you, and try to pry into your private and personal life here and there. And don't get me wrong, though. Some of them, since by local custom and tradition. Some of them may actually or might actually mean well and mean no harm. Um, but to outsiders, to foreigners, to non Asian folks, you guys, yes, even yes, including me, myself being an Asian, can um, more or less perceive that sort of act as a sort of act of aggression or intrusion. Yeah. Um, I don't know, but maybe I might have I might have picked a rather poor mm, timing to go live, since I'm currently feeling quite not exactly drowsy, but kind of um how should I put it, not much strength, at least not much physical or muscular strength present in my body, since I usually, or I should say at least on some occasions, I can at least manage to um, overcome my stuttering by taking some consecutive deep deep breaths. But so far, at least during this stream, during this live filming session, such method seems to have so effect. Um, so yeah, so the moral, I suppose, yes, the moral of you know the moral of the story, or I should say, the key the core the key point I would like to get across. I would like to disseminate to the rest of the world, in particular, to those men, to us men, to us lonely men, lonely and hurt and heartbroken men, that just learn to let go of people and things, items, and mm, namely possessions that you don't really need, since whatever sort of um, precious or um, costly items that you think you own may very much likely end up owning you, more or less, here and there, since you have to spend quite a considerable time looking after them, you know doing maintenance, lest it ceases to function, or in some cases get stolen or get abused or misused, blah blah blah. um Logos, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to this live stream. So yeah, please allow me some minutes to answer, to attend to your questions. There can be no joy without pain, no gain without loss, no happiness without suffering. They think one can exist without those the other. Do you want to do a live stream? Not exactly. I just like to get some messages across. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of this live stream, lest I fail to kind of memorize them. Yeah, but yeah, I don't suppose I have much else to say other than whatever I've said during this live stream. Yeah, I just well perhaps in my next videos I will kind of you know elaborate on how I managed to switch to Brit- British RP accent slash or no one colloquially as the posh accent from the general or standard American accent that I kind of inherited from my old man and shit though yeah, despite how loudly I may sound to those truly to those genuine, to those authentic native speakers of the received pronunciation of the received pronunciation of British accent. Um, Please feel free to point out my mistakes and flaws, um, so that I can continue to improve, so that I can continue to make constant and continuous non-stop improvements. Yeah. So you are planning to move to Canada. How so? What makes you so obsessed with relocating to Canada? So far as I heard, as I've heard, and what I can watch and gather from YouTube, Canada nowadays has pretty much turned into a total shithole, a total shithole, total dys- dystopia. In case you hadn't noticed, well, in terms of general safety and sky rocketing, soaring cost of living, just rent in terms not just in terms of rent and utility bills, but but also the exorbitant amount of prices you have to pay for the you know daily necessities, daily commodities like food, um, water slash H2O, fruits, groceries, even toilet rolls or paper. I don't know if you guys say toilet rolls or toilet papers in Great Britain. Let me guess. Maybe it should be toilet rolls instead of toilet paper. I beg your pardon. It just takes me such a great deal of physical strength, to pronounce certain words from time to time. Yeah, maybe I should grab some more food for lunch. Maybe I should kind of stop trying to cut more corners on on food, but as you guys well probably have well known, the cost of living throughout the whole Asia is also has also been soaring without much you know limit or measures of control. Yeah. So yeah, I just don't know what else to do with my life, pre with my online presence and my channel on YouTube, other than trying to keep up with the updates with the not so firm or solid promises I made to you guys, that I strive to at least come up with new at least a new video on a weekly basis. Yeah, but yeah, it's just that. Oh crap. So yeah, I guess life just as the title of this live stream has shown you guys, that no one nobody dies a virgin, since fuck life itself fucks everyone. Literally, yeah. So yeah, that says don't take life so seriously, and don't fear, don't get intimidated by death. Don't get frightened or intimidated by death either, since sooner or later it will come. It will come to you automatically. It will come to you automatically or automatically in British posh accent. I know you guys in America tends to tends to exhibit this the court merger in your speech, that says you tend to say words like say authen 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 authentic, like um authentic instead of authentic, when like in Britain or Australia, we tend in we tend to say make a round shape with both of our lips and tongues. Say say um no no notice how the shapes of my lips change when I say authentic, authentic, and my most dear, my most beloved audiences, audiences instead of audiences, audiences. So that says, in the, I suppose, yeah, in the, in most, if not all, American dialects or accents, at least, throughout most part of North America, say that it can include, most typically speaking, Canada and the United States. You guys, tend to, make, the O sound, the one of the most in this in this in this principal vowels of the whole English language, the O sound. You guys, I suppose you got, well, at least it seems and sounds to me that you guys tend to, tend to make the O sound like an R sound, a long R sound, say or authentic instead of, you guys tend to say authentic, authentic instead of authentic, authentic, authentic. Yeah. And yes, I suppose there are some other words like say life. I give you guys another rather obvious, rather obvious example here. Um, life ever since the COVID pandemic or pandemic has turned rather hostile and unbearable to the point that people can barely afford groceries, can barely afford all the daily necessities, including but are not limited to food, toilet rolls, water, bed sheets, panties, underwears, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I suppose in American accent that, or at least in the standard American accent, say in case you happen to have come from say states like Pennsylvania or Massachusetts or New York, or the city of Big Apple, or even Chicago, you may say hostile instead of hostile. Yeah, it can still vary and depend, from from one region or from one state to, to another. Well, at least so it seems, at least so it appears and sounds to me. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but yes, I suppose I have kind of gaslight. I have kind of gaslit myself into believing that speaking like a Brit by by adopting the approach fake it until you make it so much so deeply that I pretty much forgotten how to kind of switch back to my native you know American accent. I suppose that I still need to you know to to practice a lot more, until I can freely switch between um, British RP and standard American accent. I suppose that can mark and another say another um, milestone on my journey of trying to imitate um, the way in which um, a Londoner speaks. Yeah. um Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind words, your kind compliment or compliment. Yeah. Now you should be able, to at least kind of, discern which one sounds more American and which one sounds more, at least colloquially or conventionally more Brit British. Say, the word like thank you very much for your kind compliment or kind compliment. Compliment, 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 compliment. um, Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind subscription, and thank you so much for remaining subbed to my channel. Yeah, that matters a lot. It keeps like I said, it serves as a sort of some sort of transfusion to motivate me to keep making videos, keep you know um being authentic, to keep being or authentic as much as I can. Authentic and open with you guys as much as I can. And yeah, sure, be my guest. No rush. Do whatever you have to do to stay afloat, to get by in life, no matter how shitty it gets. Yeah, and stay out of trouble. And I sincerely hope that you can, earn and save more money so that you have your peace of mind and the state of zen back. Yeah. So yeah, so I suppose, yeah, I don't have much else to say or share with you guys out there. And yeah, in case you guys have, oops, in the end, that's real. This title is true. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing. Yeah. It appears that both you and me tend to vibrate on highly similar, if not completely identical frequencies. Yeah. So yeah. Do you guys have more questions or some more doubts to get you know clarified? Feel free to get your messages across. And well, yes. If not, yes, I suppose, yeah. I don't have much to say, and yeah. So you guys can feel free to post your. Um, I got here late. I got to watch this video once it's. I got here late. I got to watch this video once it's posted. Sure. Yeah, no worries. Take your time. Don't rush. Yeah. Do whatever you have got to do at your own pace during your own time. Yeah. Like I said, be like behave like water. Let it flow. Don't force. Don't well unless the situation or the circumstance warrants some sort of enforcement or some sort of necessary actions or interventions for you to put in as input to achieve a desirable outcome. You don't need to force you know you don't need to force events or things to occur. And sometimes some sort of not I wouldn't say coincidences, but synchronicities can happen automatically without um, much human intervention. Yeah. So learn to kind of so in other words, learn to vibrate on a healthy frequency or range of and um healthy and um encouraging or uplifting frequencies that can serve both you and those around you benefits and favors. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, I suppose yeah I have talked enough for this time during this live stream. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and if God's still willing, I shall see you guys in my next filming session. Yes, no matter the form, either it's a live stream or an ordinary video on YouTube. So yeah, stay out of trouble, and if God's still willing, still around on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, as well as Patreon and etc. So yeah, thank you again, and stay out of trouble. Cheers. Bye. Take care.